Thanks. So let's go ahead and get started. So yeah, thanks for the introduction. So one of my first jobs actually was on a remote team. So I was at Google actually, and we went to the headquarters and they told us that this job is actually going to be remote. So at that time, I didn't even know that remote work existed. I thought you just go to work, see your coworkers, colleagues every day, Monday through Friday. So it was a shock for us. So throughout the country, there's about 100 of us, and we had to learn how to navigate the remote working environment, such as collaborating, managing, working together, and also reaching goals in general when it comes to remote work. So look forward to sharing some of those tips with you today. Right? So thanks for the introduction. I live in Houston, Texas. And it's interesting, whenever I post a picture of myself on Facebook, I get like 20 likes. But when I post a picture of my wife, it gets hundreds of likes. I don't know what it is, right? But now we just had a son, so we get even more likes. So this is the family. This is the family right here. Yeah. So he's 9 months. All right. So I tried to get them to come, but she was working. So question for you: what do you think are some of the benefits or disadvantages of being on a remote team or working on a remote team? Pajamas? Benefit? Okay, benefit. All right.
No overhead.
No overhead. Okay.
No traveling anywhere.
No traveling anywhere. Some definitely benefits. Okay.
Less chit chat, getting things done.
Ah, okay. No, not much distractions. All right, got it.
But harder to build culture.
Harder to build culture. Yeah, that's the thing. The connection is a struggle. All right, we're not seeing each other as much as we did before. So we have to learn how to communicate and collaborate virtually and make things happen. So let's look at this. So here are some top reasons respondents gave for increased productivity. We have fewer interruptions, right? So fewer, more focused time. So most people that are working at home, they are saying that at least they are getting more focused time. But that's not the case for everybody. Anybody have kids at home that are distracting? Anybody? Not really? So it really all depends. All right? So let me ask you this. What are some of the reasons for change? What do you think are some reasons people resist change? Any ideas? What are some reasons people resist change?
It's uncomfortable.
Uncomfortable, right? Yes.
Fear of the unknown.
Fear of the unknown. All right. Fear of the unknown. So many different reasons, right? So let me go over it. In remote work, whether you're used to working in person and you have to make a change, or you have to just add more remote workers, that's a huge change. So whether they've been working in their past job, they were working in person, they have to adjust. So here's some reasons for people resisting change. So one is loss of control. So maybe in the past, they had a situation where they are a leader and the leader of a project, and if you come along making new change, maybe they feel like they're going to lose control of the position that they currently have. Right? Excess uncertainty. So in general, when change happens, we're thinking maybe we might have to relocate, might lose our position, lose business. So that's why you want to make sure when change happens, you're letting people know what's going on early on, exactly what's going to change and how can they benefit. And loss of face. So maybe they implemented change in the past and you come along making new change, talking about remote work means that they are embarrassed and what they didn't work. So work with them to see what worked in their plan to figure out how can you both work together. And concerns about competence. So I did a presentation and a director of a hospital was in the presentation. And she told me that all the nurses in the hospital used pen and paper to track all their records of the patients. And they decided to go with electronic record system eventually. And all the nurses were upset because they said, why should we do electronic record system? Because we've been doing pen and paper and it's been working fine. And so what they did was they sat down with them one-on-one for 2 to 3 days to show them exactly the benefits of this new technology. And they're excited because eventually 2 months later, they found out that all of this new technology was saving them 2 hours a day, every day on their work, in their job. So sometimes it's just good to show them exactly what are the benefits to this change that's happening. And of course, more work. Sometimes we automatically feel like more work is going to happen, right? But that's usually just the beginning. So what do you do with this new change? Involve them in the change. Ask them how they feel about the whole remote work situation. So many of my clients, they have to figure out, do they want to go through hybrid, where they're at work 2 days a week and virtual the rest? Or do they want to go fully remote, or do they want to be fully in person? So involve them and figure out what type of feedback do they have. Because they're the people that are going to be working in this new environment. Maybe they have kids at home, maybe they have family obligations. talk to them and see what is the best schedule for them. All right? And overall, maximize information flow while you're doing all this change, right? So one of the first keys when it comes to managing remotely is being accessible. So when I was on a remote team, it was a struggle because I just felt like I was so disconnected. Even though I was getting emails from my manager, even though I can go to a regional office, it just wasn't the same as being in person in an office. So being accessible, letting people know you're accessible on these different tools, maybe it's Microsoft Teams, maybe it's Google, but letting people know maybe it's you're showing your availability and let them know when you're free. And number 2, keep to your word and schedule. This is probably the easiest way to lose credibility when it comes to just in general, right? So be accessible and keep to your word and schedule. But it's important to know that during the pandemic, something interesting happened. Many people experienced remote work for the first time. So now if you see, now when people are looking for jobs, they're no longer saying that, well, I'm okay with working in the office. It's more so like, well, I've experienced it. I've saved money on gas. I'm saving money on parking. So I'm only going to accept jobs that are remote. So that's something to figure out. So you kind of have to adapt to what's going on right now. You might lose opportunities, lose people that you can gain if you don't offer remote work. All right. So here's some of the hybrid options. We have office-centric. So it starts off as most people in the office, and then you have the option to be hybrid. You got fully flexible, where you work in the office, but people can say, you know, I want to work 20% of the time. I want to work 30% of the time at home. And remote friendly. So these are times where most people are in the office, but for certain circumstances, they can work remote. And then, of course, you have remote first, where maybe you're just starting a business right now and you hire employees, and this is the first time you're doing any of this, so you're starting off remote work. And that's what's going on a lot of times as well. How many people in here work remotely? All right, pretty much everybody, right? Any challenges that you faced working remotely?
Time zones sometimes for me are a bit of an issue. I'm on the East Coast.
Okay.
I have students that are on the West Coast. I've had students out of the country.
Wow. Yeah. Time zones is a huge challenge. Anybody else? Yes.
When there's bad weather, Louisiana,
Everything shuts down, right? Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so many different challenges that people can face when it comes to, but also you got to think about the options. And I like to put this on many of my presentations, just the different types of people that are in the workplace. You may have took this test before, this assessment. You got directing, you got the influencing, you got the steady. The steady, so they're supportive, dependable. Weakness may be slow to change. Look at influencing. When it comes to people that used to be working in the office every day, influencing, they might have the most trouble, or steady, because they used to talking with people, getting energy off of others, right? And all of a sudden now you're saying that they have to work at home and they can feel isolated. So being aware of this whenever you make some of these changes is that different personality types, they might take to change differently. So now their strengths might be highlighted when it comes to remote work, or their weaknesses might be highlighted when it comes to remote work. So understanding who you work with is a key aspect of working remotely. So how do they feel? Some people say they're lonely. Just because you're not lonely doesn't mean that your team members are not lonely. So we're going to talk about how to make sure people aren't lonely. All right. So a major change that happened as well. So before the pandemic, people have heard, and organizations have heard of a results-oriented work environment, but they really didn't agree with it. Many organizations, they feel that we need to track their hours. We need to track exactly what everybody's doing. We need people in the office. But during the pandemic, something strange happened. It turns out that most of the people actually were productive, right? And even more productive. And so it's kind of like we're forced to have to accept this model of results-oriented work environment, meaning that you're not looking at their hours, but you're looking at the output that they have, the success that they have. And if they are not successful, then you go back and see, what type of tactics were you doing and how can we help you improve? But also, this helps them give ownership in the organization. Right? How many people here have too many meetings? Not enough meetings, anybody? Too many? All right. Okay, so many.
Sometimes 2 meetings at the same time.
Oh, wow, 2 meetings at the same
And I
time.
work remotely, so I can be multiple places all at once.
Yeah.
But
Okay, yeah, it depends. All right, so let's talk about it. So we talked about the general aspects of remote, but now let's talk about meetings. So key component when it comes to managing remote teams. So make sure it's not a status report. So the problem with remote work sometimes is that we're logging onto these meetings and there's no personal connection. It's just business, work. And we have to get out of that and make sure these meetings are more collaborative. Make sure people can get a connection and they're interacting. Because think about all the interruptions we get when it comes to just being on a conference call. Yeah, social media, text messages, email. People are not engaged during these virtual meetings. So you want to make it interactive as possible, making sure everybody on the meeting is communicating. One challenge we had is we would have all these remote meetings. There might be 20 people on the meeting, and only 2 people would be communicating, interacting. Right? So what we decided to do is we decided to do more of an engaging approach, which is a round table. So at the end of the meeting, we would just go around and ask people how things are going. You know, we didn't call them out as far as the results they were getting, but we made sure to ask them how things are going and just tell us about your day, just so they can get in the mood of interacting. And one reason this happens when there's no interaction is that maybe people don't know each other. So a client that I have right now, it's a government agency, last week, they had a huge change in Canada where everybody had to get on different teams during the pandemic. So now you have all these people on the same team, but they've never met each other in person. And so they're trying to work with each other and they never connected in person. So now during the virtual calls, it's a struggle. So make sure to get to know people and have them collaborate as well. So try activities. So it doesn't always have to be about business all the time. Activities, home scavenger hunts, local tour of your office, bingo, right? Questions before meetings, meaning you tell them, hey, answer this question, such as where do you spend your most time, or how do you spend the most time, or what are you proud of, and bring that answer to the following meeting. And so you can have those engaging discussions. All right, so here's an example of the scavenger hunt. So I do this often whenever I do trainings for organizations. So during the virtual call, we have them go in their house, make sure, look around where they're living and try to find all these items. Most people find, I would say 7 to 6 items, right? So strangely, most people have wine bottles right off this list. I don't know how that happened. Screwdrivers, and many people don't have Amazon boxes. So it's an interesting game and it's a fun, so you can add as many to this list if you want. Give them maybe 15 minutes, 20 minutes. And just again, the idea is to make sure meetings aren't only about business, whether this is during the meeting or a separate time after the meeting. And it's interesting because during the pandemic, think about all these companies and organizations that depended on people coming to their events, such as escape room or live concerts. But guess what? They had to figure out how to make revenue, so they turned all those games virtually. So you can have a virtual escape room. You can have virtual things that used to be in person. So definitely look those up and see how you can play those games. Some of them are free, some of them are paid. And set guidelines too. When I was on a remote team, we'll have people logging on in their pajamas, laying down in their bed, right? And in the coffee shops, noisy, in different technologies. So like, for instance, you want to make sure people have a similar cameras, similar computers, if that's possible. So the technology is the same, so you can help them understand how to use it, because that was one of the challenges that we had. So it'll take us about 15, 20 minutes just to get a meeting started because so many interruptions. And share face. Share your face for more connection. So all these organizations I work with, many of them, they say they never have their camera on. Their team members never have the camera on. Maybe because they feel like they're having a bad hair day, right? So many excuses can happen. But think about it. Would they go to work in person with a paper bag over their head, right? they would probably see in person, you know? So like, why not encourage them to use their camera? Because think about all that we're losing when it comes to not having a camera on. We can't see their body language. We can't see if they're actually okay. So to build that connection, you want to make sure everyone has their camera on and everybody's engaging. So take a look at this. Look at all the interruptions. Sending an email, all right, eating or making food, right? Going to the restroom, texting, video games, shopping, right? Hopefully nobody's shopping right now, right? So yeah, so it sounds like somebody maybe did this today, right? So you have to make sure your meetings are engaging so they're not tuning out. So make these meetings engaging. So let's watch this video about meetings. So we have one video and another video about meetings. Let's take a look.
Late. Got caught in traffic.
7 minutes, actually.
What's that?
A couple is 2.
So what we're doing is we're just coming up with some ideas for our new marketing strategy.
Sure.
So, anyone?
I think we should implement Pinterest.
Ooh, that's a fun idea.
What about a publicity event in the park?
Interesting. But how are you going to plan around the weather? What if it rains?
So we'll party in the rain.
Okay, just want to emphasize there's no bad ideas here. We're just brainstorming. So.
Yeah, I'm just really thinking it'll be a huge waste of money to try to plan around the weather.
Yeah, okay, we get your concerns. Nancy, thank you.
Okay, anyone else have an idea? Ephraim?
I've always wanted to see rain fall down all at once in a big splash instead of small drops over time. I mean, think how it could impact the irrigation system.
Okay. Terry?
Well, I have an idea from my previous job that I had last year. Let me take that back a little bit. I have this wonderful idea, but it doesn't really make sense unless I just take it back a second and bring it forward together. It was like 3 weeks ago that I remember he said something that I couldn't understand.
Hold on a second, Terry. Hold on. Thanks for pointing. Here's what we need to do, okay? Lauren, you got this? We do a video submission contest on YouTube.
Oh, that's been done.
It'll be on Facebook, it'll be on Pinterest, it'll be on Twitter.
If we do something with technology, we lose the senior demographic.
So, you guys want to see an example?
Should we be moving on to the next topic? I mean, it's already 1:15.
It's quarter after. That's funny.
Who knows how to put this on the screen? Up there, because you're not going to be able to, I want you to see all the details. We have a cable. Does this cable work?
I think that's power.
I don't know if on the there's an
This one.
HDMI
That
port.
cord's not gonna be long
In
enough.
the back,
Does that
there
remote
could be
go to
like
the
2 or 3,
TV?
like HDMI 1.
Plenty of time,
HDMI
guys.
2,
No rush.
HDMI
This isn't
3,
working.
I got a
and
green
then they
marker.
coincide
Call the
with
IT
each
guy.
other with,
Wait,
there's
turn
also,
what off and back
what
on?
do you call it? S-video.
Hello?
Okay, I've got it working.
Hit play. Okay, now imagine hundreds of those floating around the web. Do you want to watch it one more time?
No, please.
Trip, I think you're onto something with this idea. I really like it. Carol, did you get that down?
Yep, got it.
Sorry, what is C-test up sub YT pros?
Well, I'm abbreviating to make room for all these great ideas. Contest, uploading it to YouTube, funniest, and you get a prize.
Wait, where are the other ideas?
And time.
Wait, where y'all going? We still have 100% of the things to accomplish.
Does it look familiar? Does the video look familiar? I mean, as far as like meetings, been in meetings like this, right? So many distractions that can happen. So many distractions happen. So let's watch one more. This is specifically about virtual calls.
Trip Crosby.
Has joined the meeting.
Beth?
Has joined the meeting.
Hello?
Tyler?
No, this is Beth from ICS.
Oh, hey, Beth. How are you doing?
Oh, good, yeah. Just making it,
Tyler?
Has joined the meeting.
All right, well, this is Trip. Who's here?
Tyler's here.
Beth's here.
Okay, the purpose of today's meeting is to discuss the...
Yeah, I'll be able to do it in like 30 minutes. John?
Has joined the meeting.
Hi, John.
Hi.
I was just trying to go over the purpose of today's meeting, which is to discuss the
Tyler?
Has joined the meeting.
Sorry, guys, I got cut off. Is Paul here? Send him the invite.
Put in your access code.
No, that's your PIN number.
It should be a 9-digit number.
Try pressing the pound key.
Paul.
Has joined the meeting.
Any questions before we move on?
Yes, this is Beth. What's our best plan of attack for the second quarter?
Question
What
actually...
we should do.
Oh,
Go ahead. Oh, I think
Well,
what we should do
it
is
actually
really
depends on
diversify.
how you look at it, 'cause
and
the
really
re-
come.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. I think
Given
what we-
sales,
what we
we're at
really-
a...
I think
Let me just
alt-
say that
Okay.
that's a great graph, John. Tyler?
Well, my main concern with the projections from last year was that they're just insufficient. I mean, they're not even taking into account.
Did we lose Tyler again? Hello?
John, are you guys taking distributions? John?
Oh, my bad. I was on mute. Let me start over.
So I've prepared a presentation. I'm sharing it with all of you. You should be able to see it on your screen right now.
Got it.
I don't see a link anywhere.
It says I need to download a plugin.
We are all using Macs, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
How can you?
Financials are looking great. Paul, do you have any comments on staffing?
I was thinking about that because we get a few more contractors types in. Hold on, I'm sorry.
Rex, get down!
No, I feel like when I looked at the numbers last quarter, that you couldn't really tell a huge difference. So if we were to really tighten that up, then I
To me, staffing is a huge impact.
Is that?
Is that me?
It's not me, I don't think.
I just want to go over a couple of details as we move into our next section here. We got 3 new departments coming on board.
I'm breaking up a little bit, guys.
By the end of Q3.
We're having
So
a dead
I need
spot.
everyone to give me detailed evaluations each
Sorry,
month
guys.
so that we know. That's it, guys. Beth, you'll send out a recap email that could have basically taken the place of this whole meeting, correct?
Yep, always do.
Yeah, thanks for doing that, Beth. Dave, you been here the whole time? Yeah. Huh. Well, thanks everyone once again. Oh, one more.
So as you can see, so many interruptions, right? so much to avoid. So here's a conference call bingo. You know, we've already all heard some of these terms, right? Can you hear me? I'm on mute, get off mute, hello, right? So conference call bingo. A lot of people like playing this, so many different options. So let's talk about remote communication strategies in general. So right now, I feel like in a remote work environment, we're gonna be communicating more. So the words we use matter, what we talk about matters as well. So let's take the word because. So a researcher over 25 years ago decided to do a study. She wanted to figure out what phrase or words would get people in front of the line when they asked the person at a local printing shop. So she hired 5 actors to go to these local printing shops and ask one of 3 excuses. One is request only, excuse me, I have 5 pages, may I use the Xerox machine? 2, real information, excuse me, I have 5 pages, may I use the printing machine because I'm in a rush? And 3, the fake reason that didn't make sense is, excuse me, I have 5 pages, may I use the printing machine because I have to make copies? So what excuse do you think got them in front of the line more than others? 2? Anybody? 1? All right, 2, 1. Turns out that the real reason, 94%, but number 3, the fake reason, 93% got in front of the line. So that's amazing and is due to the word because. Because the word because signifies giving them a reason. So the study showed that if you give people reasons, they're more likely to do what you say. And so this even ties into social media. I'm going to be talking about social media tomorrow, but if you were to do a post and you say, hey, share this because we're trying to reach more students, we're trying to reach more people in the community, you'll get a lot more shares and comments and likes because you gave people a reason. And not only that, but it reminds them of what to do because they're willing to do it, but you have to remind them. So we had trouble with accountability when I was on a remote team. So what we decided to do was each month we had a shared document, and at the end of the month we would just write down 3 things that we did for the month. Big wins, small items, and plans for the next week. So big wins mean what is something that we're proud of that we worked on? What are some of the small items that we worked on as well? And then also, what are the plans for next week? We started off doing this monthly, but we ended up doing this weekly because people ended up waiting to the last minute, the last day of the month to do a report or do any work, right? So we ended up doing it weekly. But yeah, so big wins, small items, and what are the plans for next week? This helped us understand exactly what's going on. And not only that, but it helped other team members look and see what other people are doing so they can be motivated as well. And we use Google Docs specifically for this. Right? So setting up ground rules when it comes to remote work. In person, if you're in the office setting and you send an email and they don't respond in 2 hours, what do? You can stand up and go talk to them. But in a virtual world, you can't really do that. if 3 hours goes past, you don't know what's happening. You don't know if they're at the movies. You don't know if they're sleeping. You don't know what's happening, right? So we set guidelines saying that within 24 hours, please respond, or you can say by the end of the day. So we set those guidelines. And also employee acknowledgments. So not everybody wants to be acknowledged in a group call. Maybe some people like to be acknowledged through an email, one-on-one email or a phone call. So it's something to consider. Right? So get to know them. So that's another reason to have these calls, have these video calls, those one-on-one calls. So again, you're going to be having more meetings, but it's going to be more beneficial because you're not seeing them every day. And phone calls make difference. So for my book, I interviewed a president of an HR association in Jacksonville, And she told me that when the pandemic happened, they got a list of all their members and they called every single one of them. And many people, when they picked up the phone, they thought they were just collecting dues. So they didn't know what to say. But eventually they told them, well, we're just calling to check on you. But one lady picked up, and after a couple minutes, she started crying because that was the first time anybody had ever called her during the whole time of the pandemic. So you never know how one call can change everything for somebody, especially when they're working remotely. So some of the good things about working remotely is so many different home services you can do, gift cards, special deliveries, right? Home office upgrades, technology upgrades. So you can offer this as incentives when it comes to working remotely. Right? And one thing has changed is hiring. So there's benefits. Anybody, what kind of benefits are when it comes to remote hiring? What do you think are some of the benefits? Anybody? Access more people. You access more people. If you're trying to find more people to hire, you can access more of them because they're in different places, right? But some of the challenges are you can't really do the same type of onboarding and training. So when you're hiring, make sure you ask for experience. I mean, it's not a requirement, but it's good to have experience remote work. Accountability is good as well, right? And onboarding. So what organizations that I work with, what they do is they are recording their training sessions and then they're having the people at least watch them on a weekly basis. But throughout that time, they're also having them meet each other, meet coworkers, so they can build that culture, they can understand who they're working with, versus just having them as a new employee and then not having them meet anybody, and then they don't know each other for 6 months, right? It could be a challenge. So making sure you tell them and you help them connect with each other during that onboarding process. And let's talk a little bit about community. So community when it comes to remote work. So I would go to conferences, like this, like national conferences, regional conferences, and I would always wonder, well, why are people paying for the conference when they can just watch the content online? And I realized that the main reason why people come to conferences is because they want that community feel. They want to meet people that they've known for years. They want to connect with them. They want to meet new people, right? So same thing when it comes to our organization, our business, and our small business, creating a community around what we do in our brand so people feel good about working at our company or not just about the pay, right? So it can be 56% of respondents feel they belong most at work when they feel trusted and respected. So trust is a key component of this remote work because, again, we have to give them ownership and trust that they're doing the job that they said they're going to do. So respondents feel most at work when they speak freely and value their opinions, right? They feel most belong when their unique contributions are valued. And respondents say that when colleagues check in with them about how they are doing, both personally and professionally, they feel the greatest sense of belonging at work, right? So definitely check in as much as you can, right? So one overlooked aspect of remote work is often the well-being portion of it. So are people okay? Are they doing okay when they're isolated or when they're by themselves? 21% of remote employees cite loneliness, right? So 21%. Anybody recognize this video? Okay. So exactly. Yeah, so you're in the right session, right? So look, always on culture. Wake up, go to the computer. Wake up, go to the computer. Maybe take one break, go to sleep, maybe eat. Hopefully you're eating, right? So go to sleep. And again, it just wears on the body and impacts mental health, right? So much money is spent because it's low productivity. What can be done in an hour is taking 2 hours, All right, so low productivity, people are not showing up to work. So encourage your team and yourself to take breaks. So take enough breaks, take time off if you can. Right? And this also affects different age groups too. So look at the people that are on your team. I'm not saying you have to get their age and everything, but in general, it affects different people. So always keep that in mind with the different generations. So here's some ideas for you. I mean, we talked about events, so have local events or like activities. I was doing a presentation for a company based in Germany, and what they did was they had all these teams across different countries. So what they did every month is they had like a cooking show type of thing where one person would show exactly all the different types of popular foods in the country, and then they would cook it on Zoom. So I thought that was interesting. So doing activities like that, cooking that are outside of work, again, highly useful. Right? So mental health, virtual workshops, wellness classes. So there's so many resources available that you can share with the team, so making sure everything is okay. Right? Anybody in here, do you feel like you have work-life balance? Anybody? Not really? Doesn't sound good, right? Never not. Okay. I mean, we're in New Orleans, right? At least you can, take some days off. I know somebody, Elaine, she said she came in early, right? So just to see the city, work-life balance, So definitely have work-life balance if you can. And remote work, it kind of gets us to work too much sometimes. Not taking breaks, not taking lunches. So we have to make sure we're forcing us. In person, in the office, we can see everybody going to lunch. People might ask us out to lunch, right? But at home, we don't have that. So make sure you're setting the time to actually do that. So surveys, you can send a one-question survey to your team to say like, hey, how is your stress level? What is going on? How do you feel about the work? How do you feel about remote work? Just so you can get a pulse of what's going on. Right? And last section almost, so we have utilize technology to enhance off-site performance. So what do you currently do? You use Microsoft, Google, Microsoft Teams? Okay. So OneNote is a useful tool for your remote team. So you can work on the same document at once instead of emailing back and forth. You can do forms, surveys. You record the actual screen when you're using it. So I use Google Docs, and this is OneNote right here. So you can use OneNote, highly useful. So sharing the same document. OneDrive to upload all your docs. So if I do a presentation, I make sure to upload it to Google Drive because if my computer gets stolen, all I gotta do is log into a computer and I can have access to that. So again, even as a manager, you can get notified when people make edits. You can get notified if somebody removes documents, or if you're scared somebody accidentally deleted content off of a document, you can restore that version. So that's one of the best things about the OneDrive. All right, so this SharePoint, have something specifically for your team, like a site where you can see activity and news. All right. In email, I'm gonna have a QR code where you can ask for like some of these slides as far as like the shortcuts. So I'm gonna send you some of the shortcuts for Microsoft Teams as well. All right. So lastly, let's talk about working off-site, the actual environment, actually working at home. So remember, you have a job. What I mean by that is, when I first started working remotely years ago, my family and friends, they would call me for favors, right? They would act like I wasn't working, just because. So I had to let them know, like, yes, I'm working. Even now, if I'm not doing a presentation or if I'm not in a meeting, people assume I'm just watching TV, right? So you want to set those boundaries, set those rules, and coordinate with your family. Make sure you're letting people know when your meetings are before you have a big meeting and it's interruption. So of course, everyone in here has big meetings, right? So you don't want to have those interruptions while in the coordination process, right? So be proactive. Visual cues, let them know how you can interact. Maybe they can send you a text message instead of like barging into your office. And also the equipment. So one person that was in the training last week, she said her wrist was hurting for weeks and she didn't realize it until somebody told her that it's probably the way that our desk is set up. It's probably the way that our keyboard is set up. So at the corporate office, they'll do this for us, but in our own office, we've got to make sure that we have the right equipment. And I'm sure there's ergonomic coaches out there that can help as well. Right? You can always do this when it comes to interruptions, right? So I'm not recommending it. I'm just showing you the picture, right? So this is always an option. So let's watch this video and think about what could he have done differently.
Scandals happen all the time. The question is, how do democracies respond to those scandals?
And what will it mean for the wider region? I think one of your children has just walked in. I mean, shifting sands in the region. Do you think relations with the North may change?
I would be surprised if they do. Pardon me. Pardon me. My apologies.
What's this going to mean for the region?
My apologies. North Korea, South Korea's policy choices on North Korea have been severely limited in the last 6 months to a year.
All right, so maybe you could close the door. I don't know, close the door. So, and this is what I was talking about, a big meeting, right? So have those guidelines up front. You need to set those guidelines up front. This is option 2. This is option. All right, so this is always option. I'm not recommending, I'm just showing you a picture. I'm just showing you a picture, right? So my kid is 9 months, so far he's not walking yet, so that's the thing. So take the whole break. So make sure you're taking the whole break. If you're taking an hour break in person at the corporate office, take a whole break while you're working remotely. So change the environment. Maybe sometimes you can work in a coffee shop, all right, or somewhere else. That's what I used to do often, is just go into different areas, different locations in the city just to work, so you can kind of like not be working the same place every day, all day. And try set hours. That's an option. And some people say, they dress up for work, and then after work, they change their clothes because they want to have that balance of separating work from home. So charge your computers. It sounds basic, but I was one of the people that would carry my computer at my house and then not charge it. And then until one day, my electricity was out in the morning because there was a huge storm in Houston. And I was wondering what I was going to do. So I had to go to my relative's house because I had a presentation at like 10 a.m. And from then on, I realized I got to be prepared. So what I did was I made sure I charged my laptop, and I got a battery pack. So you can get this on Amazon. Halo, it's called the Halo. So it charges my laptop, my phone. You can even charge your car with it, right? And I have a Wi-Fi hotspot on my phone as well. You can get a separate one. I know there's a couple companies that offer that. But in general, you want to be prepared for any type of emergencies or outages that can happen. So overall, we talked about a lot of different things. So we talked about how you want to have engaging meetings. Make sure that when you're engaging the meetings, that people are paying attention. And I recommend having people's cameras on. So turning your cameras on. And also, we talked about being ready for any type of emergencies. We talked about just making sure that there's not too many interruptions during the meetings as well, just having an agenda and going around the room. Make sure everybody's talking in these meetings as well. And just in general, making sure that you're communicating one-on-one, and then also making sure that there's well-being initiatives happening. All right, so check on people, call them. It makes a big difference. So overall, don't overthink things like this. All right. So it's not that scary, right? It's not that scary. It's not that scary. So what I do is I offer training, like a lot of my clients, training on managing remote teams. And also, if you scan this, you can email me any questions as well if you need help with anything or know anybody, organization that need help with managing remote teams. And I have a book here. I have books here, so they're for purchase afterwards. So I'll be here. You can talk any questions as well. Any questions today? Any questions you have? Yes.
What are your thoughts on if you have a remote team keeping track of their productivity? There are programs and things out there that you can keep track of that. What do you think about that as far as motivating or demotivating them? But you have people who perhaps are not being as efficient with their time because they're working from home.
Yeah, so I think it depends on the type of job. So I wouldn't recommend it up front unless you have trouble with the person. So let's say, for instance, they're writing down that they work 20 hours, and when you know they didn't work 20 hours, that's when I'll probably implement some of the system like that where you can track. It shows their screen. It shows exactly what they've been doing on their screens for that month. But I wouldn't take it there until they show that you're having trouble with trusting they're not actually doing the work that they're say they're doing.
how would you suggest talking to them about, to your team about that, what your expectations are? Because I'm finding a challenge with my younger employees that, you know, hey, they're not saying to me, Sue, I don't have enough work to do, can you give me something to do? You know, so how do you motivate them that just because they're not in an office doesn't mean they need to continue to be productive?
Oh yeah, so I mean, I would just have said that in the beginning. Say that, give them outline the task that they need to do, and this is what they need to do if they're already done with the main task. So just giving them enough work, letting them know, because that could be a challenge too if they're not busy enough. They might feel like, well, if I'm not busy enough, then I can just relax. But yeah, just have an outline of what their job is. Always clarify what their job is, because that's a common issue. Because they feel like, well, I don't have anything to do. But sometimes you have to hold their hand. You know, you have to initially hold their hand and guide them, and then hopefully they pick up on it later on. So that's the hope. Thanks. Anybody else? Any questions? All right.
Do you find, like we have an office that everybody worked in the office, and then it was a pandemic and everybody worked at home. And then the time came for everybody to come back in the office. And some people said, nope.
Mm-hmm.
So when you have to reinstitute that policy of back in the office, how do you, have you run into that, kind of switching back?
Oh yeah, some of my clients, like government clients, that they're having that to do right now. So it used to be, for them it was everybody remote, and after a couple of years now they're going to hybrid. So what you could do is you could talk about hybrid maybe, that's an option. It's like, hey, you're not completely going back to remote, it's gonna be hybrid, 2 days a week. That's a lot better than going from completely remote to, all the way, because you gotta remember, people experience how it is saving money on gas, parking, time, driving, so you wanna make that process a little bit easier. So you wanna let them know, I would recommend hybrid first before going all the way back, all the way there. But you can always talk about the benefits and the reason why. So always talk about how, why this is happening as well. Definitely. All right, anybody else? Any other questions? All right. Can anybody name one tip from today? One tip from what I shared?
I liked the part about how to make them feel included, and that it's just important to build in non-work time.
Yeah.
Because the people in the office get a lot of non-work time.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right, there we go. And she gets a book. I just put it right there, I guess. Yeah, and I'll be over here selling the books right here. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris, for a wonderful presentation.